Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee. This is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor, wherever, guys. While you're there, go and rate, review, subscribe, then head on over to the Facebook group and Twitter account and join in the discussion, guys. Well, hello, everyone. It is a beautiful Sunday morning here in Austin, Texas. I think it's supposed to be like mid-80s or so not too bad for this time of year. I myself got to jump on the day, got up and mowed the lawn, and of course, my stupid self doing so, trying to, be productive, paid the price by getting stung by a wasp. I found a wasp nest out on the back fence, and as I was passing by the fence, I didn't see it, and of course, the wasp felt threatened by me, stung me. I'm okay though, and the nest is gone. The wasps are dead. The good guys, prevailed, right? That's what happens. But I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. A lot of good stuff to check out. Now, I'm here to talk about something that I checked out yesterday. Now, some of you may be feeling a little bit of theater blues where the movie theaters, on lockdown or not open. We can't go to the movie theaters. A lot of movies that were supposed to come out around this time of year have been postponed, or some went straight to streaming or video released. The most famous one was last month's Trolls World Tour. The Trolls sequel popped up on streaming. It was $20 to rent it, or basically $20 to have it for 48 hours, and then that was it. Now, my daughter likes Trolls, and I wouldn't mind renting it for her, but I'm used to paying at most maybe $5 or $6 to rent something on streaming, so I wasn't going to pay $20 just to rent it. When the price comes down a little bit, I'll rent it for her. I might do that. But this weekend, another movie that was supposed to come in theaters, I believe it was last month, perhaps, jumped on to VOD, and that is Scoob, the newest interpretation of the Scooby Doo franchise. Like I said, it's supposed to come out, I think it was this month or last month, in theaters. Instead, they went straight to home video. And it's funny, too, because I was at Target getting something this weekend, too. And I could see the merchandise out for it, too. So that was pretty cool. But I sat down and I watched it. Now, with this one, unlike Trolls, you can actually buy it. So it's $20 to rent, like Trolls was, or $25 to buy it. And I see what Warner Brothers is doing there, because for a mere $5 extra, if you like the movie, you could keep it. So if you sit down and you're like, okay, $20 to rent it, $25 to keep it, well, there's a chance I'm probably going to like it. I'll pay the extra $5 so I can keep it. That's, to me, the smart thing to do, just to pay the extra $5. So totally get that. So I sat down yesterday and I watched it, and now I'm going to let you know just what I feel about Scoob. You guys, of course, fire back. If you've seen the film, head on to the Facebook group, Twitter account, even dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Let me know, guys. So, to start off, kind of my history with the Scooby Doo franchise. I'm not a huge Scooby Doo fan, to be honest. Now, the franchise goes all the way back to 1969. For me, the only interpretation that I think I semi-enjoyed was in 1988, they had the Saturday morning cartoon, A Pup Named Scooby Doo. And I remember watching it, I was prime age for that, Saturday morning cartoons. I watched it. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I enjoyed it, But that's really the only interpretation I remember really truly enjoying, I guess. I know they had the live-action ones in 2002 with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar. I don't even think I really watched those. I don't remember ever watching them, actually. Mainly because, it was around that time I was getting to my late teens, early 20s, and it didn't seem like the kind of film that I would be into at that age. Probably the most fun I've had with the franchise is when they've done crossovers. When I was younger, I know they did an episode of Johnny Bravo, the Cartoon Network show, which I thoroughly enjoyed to see Bravo interacting with the crew. And then most recently, there was an episode of Supernatural where Sam and Dean became cartoons in a Scooby-Doo episode, and that was quite enjoyable. I hadn't watched Supernatural in years since then, and as soon as I heard they were going to do a Scooby-Doo crossover, I was like, well, I should probably check this out, and I'm glad I did. I really enjoyed it. So while I enjoy the franchise, I don't really consider myself a Scooby Doo fan. But I was intrigued by this one. It's got a great voice cast to go along with it. You got Zac Efron, Amanda Seyfried, Gina Rodriguez, Will Forte, Mark Wahlberg, Jason Isaacs. Really just a great voice cast for this film. And the trailers really sold me on this, of course. You know, the friendship between Shaggy and Scooby really seemed cute. So I sat down yesterday to watch it, and I thought it was okay. But there was a bit of I want to say an age question for me, because I wasn't quite sure where this movie was shooting demographically. The hijinks, if you say that's what they are, aim for the younger kids. But then there was also a little more mature things in there, especially the pop culture references that I don't think the kids would get. So I guess you could say definitely a family movie, something a little for everyone, but didn't quite hit that Pixar level where anyone of any age can enjoy this film. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, I hadn't watched a Disney movie in a while, and I went and saw Monsters, Inc. in theaters because it seemed interesting, and I loved it. I was, again, late teens, early 20s, and I realize this is a perfect movie for everyone, and that's what Pixar does so well. And I think that's kind of the animated, movie everyone hopes to make, where the parents can bring their kids and everyone can get something out of it. However, like I said, I think the single 20s type of people, I don't think are going to get much out of this unless they're big Scooby Doo fans. So to break it down a little bit, I'm going to go, of course, spoilers territory. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm not going to go too in-depth really with it, but I think I am going to give away some plot points at the end there. So again, if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, pause, come back, and listen to me later. So the film starts off, of course, of how Shaggy and Scooby met. Shaggy was a lonely kid, Scooby was a stray, and they became friends. They meet up with Velma, Fred, Daphne, and solve their first crime together, which is how they start their company. And as they got older, of course, they're looking to expand, but Simon Cowell, of all people, I don't know why the hell Simon Cowell was thrown in there. Of all the celebrities, why Simon Cowell? He was looking to invest in the company, but he didn't see what Shaggy and Scooby brought to the company. Honestly, that's a good question, because if you look at Scooby-Doo throughout the years, Velma's the brains, Fred's the leader, Daphne's, the finesse, if you say. So Shaggy and Scooby, they accidentally stumble into the answer of the mystery. But other than that, it's not like they have a lot to bring to it. So they wander off, they get attacked by robots. Their hero, Blue Falcon, picks them up, and they're being chased by Dick Dastardly, voiced by Jason Isaacs. And I gotta say, Isaacs, he does a great bad guy, of course. He was Malfoy in Harry Potter, the Grand Inquisitor in Star Wars Rebels, and now he's, Dick Dastardly, which tying into the whole Hanna-Barbera era, he's looking for his dog too, but he's also looking for Alexander the Great's hidden treasure in the underworld, and Scooby, who is a descendant of Alexander the Great's dog, is the key to it. So he's looking for Scooby, he gets Scooby, he opens the underworld, and come to find out that there's some ghosts, actual ghosts, that pop out, and the gang has to deal with everything. So I like to start with my cons first, because then I like to end on a good note with my pros. So, although the voice casting, I really enjoyed this. For the most part, I think everyone was great for their roles. Sadly, the weakest person I thought in the voice casting was Will Forte, which was Shaggy, which I think you got to say was the main character or the main voice of this all. It just didn't seem right. Amanda Seyfried as Daphne, Zac Efron as Fred Jones, Gina Rodriguez. I could see all of them just by their voices, and of course their looks, playing the character. Mark Wahlberg did great. I really love it when he goes into comedic parts. He did a great job, but Will Forte, just something about it, the voice was just a little off. It didn't work as well for me. I thought, you could have put someone else in there and done a little better job. Now, the main thing I might have a little bit of problem with, I guess, is going to be the actual plot of the story, which is basically the ending, because one thing about Scooby and the gang is they solve mysteries. Yes, they hunt ghosts, but 99.9% of the time, the ghosts aren't real. And it turns out to be someone who has their own little plot, pull off the mask, and it's somebody else. That's what happens. So the fact that the plot in this one was actual real ghost didn't seem like it was fitting very well with Scooby Doo. Now, again, going back to the live action film with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr., if I do believe right, that was actual ghosts, right? They were dealing with actual supernatural elements, and it wasn't just a prank played by someone. But to me, that's not what Scooby-Doo is at the heart, is it's keeping it simple. I think with Scooby-Doo, kids are watching that cartoon thinking, yes, they're hunting ghosts, and they solve the crime to say, hey kids, ghosts aren't real. Maybe there's something reassuring about that. Maybe I'm getting the wrong message, but that's why what I always got from Scooby-Doo was kids could watch that and like, oh, you're afraid of ghosts? Well, guess what, kids? Ghosts aren't real. It's just your imagination. It's just someone messing with you. Don't worry about ghosts. That's what I got from Scooby-Doo. But what these live action or the theatrical films have done is, given that more supernatural element. And I get it. It's a big screen, big budget film, so you got to make it big. Especially with this, it's an animated film, so you can really play up whatever you want and, go big. But to me, that's not what Scooby-Doo is. And again, I don't consider myself a Scooby-Doo fan, but what I've always thought of him is this group of friends that solve these cases on a smaller level and going after, underworlds and ghosts and treasure and stuff like that. That's never been what I think Scooby-Doo's about in my eyes. So that's where this film kind of lost me, was especially if you're trying to reintroduce a new generation of people to what Scooby-Doo is, you need to get to the core of what Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Incorporated team does, which is solve those cases. Give us, a big, kind of ghost story, but at the end, make it somebody else. Make it a mystery is what it was. Make it a mystery. It's a kid's mystery show. I'm not talking, you got to be like Sherlock Holmes or, something like that, but it's a start in that direction for a younger audience. And again, this wasn't about solving the mystery. This was a supernatural element to it. It seemed to me like it missed the point of what Scooby-Doo is. All right, so now for my pros. I talked a little bit about the cast before. I loved them. I mean, honestly, I really liked most of them, aside from Will Forte, which the rest of the voices were great. Your other three members, Zac Efron, Amanda Seyfried, Gina Arias, feel like, just knowing what they look like, they could jump out of the animated world and play these characters for real, and a little bit of me makes it feel like I want them to, actually. Mark Wahlberg, again, he does some great comedy when he needs to be, so adding that in there, he really added that to it. Same thing, again, with going back to Zac Efron. He does a lot of comedy, of course, too, and the way he played Fred, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed that. Tracy Morgan pops up as Captain Caveman, a Hanna-Barbera classic character, did great there. Fred Winkler, who has been voicing Scooby-Doo cartoons since 1969. I looked it up on IMDb, and he started out doing Fred back in the original animated series, and then I think it was around the 80s or so, he started doing Scooby-Doo as well. And in this one, he does Scooby-Doo. You also have Ken Jeong doing Dynamite, and Kirstie Clemens as Dee Dee Sykes. Again, voice casting was greatly done. As far as the whole Blue Falcon storyline, I wish they would have done more about it, kind of describing how Brian took over his dad's job and, how he got involved. Dee Dee, I'm not sure still how she fits into it, because early in the film when they were talking about Blue Falcon and Dynamite, Shaggy there was no mention of Dee Dee. And maybe I missed that, while I was, looking around the living room at other things, perhaps. I don't remember hearing about that character earlier in the film when they were describing Blue Falcon. And just to give some credit too, the film is directed by Tony Servon. I think that's how you say his name, but he has been doing Scooby-Doo, looks like, for a couple years now. If you look up on IMDb, he's done a lot of Tom and Jerry and Scooby-Doo direct-to-video kind of things. This is his first full feature film, and he did okay. Like I said, my problems with the plot aside, the way the story went and the way it was directed, I think was perfectly fine. So, for an anime movie such as this, I think it was okay. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that, yes, Scooby Doo is a Hanna-Barbera property. And of course, what's big these days are the expanded cinematic worlds. Hanna-Barbera has an eclectic library of characters that, at one point, not so long ago, were very big. So you can see in the post-credits that they're looking to hopefully maybe springboard Scoob into something else. I mean, they put, Dick Dastardly and his mutt in here, which, goes back to the Racers cartoon. I forget the name of it, sorry. You have Captain Caveman, who got his own cartoon, which Tracy Morgan spinoff Captain Caveman, I'll watch that. And then, of course, like I said, at the end of the credits, they were showing the gang going off and having more adventures, but also interacting with other Hanna-Barbera characters, making you think, again, shared cinematic universe. Now, the one that caught my eye most was when the gang hooked up with Dr. Quest, as in Johnny Quest, which is my favorite Hanna-Barbera property. I don't know what it was, a young blonde kid growing up, of course. I kind of leaned towards, a cartoon about a young blonde kid who traveled the world and solved mysteries. I don't know what it was, but yes, I have an affinity for Johnny Quest. Mostly, of course, in my age group, it was the New Adventures of Johnny Quest. My dad, before that, when he was a kid, watched the original Johnny Quest, which I've seen some of that. But, I like the concept of Johnny Quest out of all the other Hanna-Barbera properties. I know they've been trying to get a Johnny Quest film going for a while now. At some point, Robert Rodriguez was attached to it. I'm not sure how that one's going yet still, but, animated could be a good way to go too. If they stick in this animated cinematic world, do some crossovers even too. Again, it depends on how well Scoob does. And honestly, I don't see this film doing great, mainly because, like I said, number one, didn't go in theaters. It went straight to, VOD, which means it's not going to make a lot of money. I don't know how much they spent on it, but it's not probably going to make back its budget. You do have the merchandising out there, like I said, that I saw at Target, but I'm not sure, if that's going to help. It all depends. Kids are going to have to see this movie to want to buy the merchandise, and I don't know how many kids are excited to see this film. It's going to be about the parents who remember Scooby Doo, who like Scooby Doo, and want to show it to their kids. I showed this trailer to my daughter. She had a vague interest in it, but not a big interest, actually. It's one of those things with Sonic the Hedgehog. I showed her Sonic the Hedgehog. She had no interest in seeing Sonic the Hedgehog until her friends started talking about it, and then she really wanted to see it. I enjoyed the film. I think it went too big. I think it got away from the heart of Scooby-Doo just a little bit. I mean, you still had the friendships in there between Shaggy and Scooby and the gang a little bit, but I think, the over-the-top plot is not what Scooby-Doo's about in my eyes. And again, I know it's animated. I know you want to try to make it big, but I think they needed to go small, especially in a first film, especially in a way to introduce kids to what Scooby-Doo is. And, instead of, saying, oh, well, the ghosts aren't real, ha ha ha, and then in the second and third film or whatever, you can actually bring an actual ghost as a surprise. They brought it in too soon in my eyes. But, still a cute film. I hope it does well because, I enjoy or like the idea of the Scooby-Doo franchise, even though I don't consider myself, like I said, a big fan of it. But I would like for the franchise to continue as a legacy. So we'll see how it goes, guys. But either way, fire back, of course, social media groups, Dayspring Discussions at gmail.com. Let me know what you think about Scoob. And that is it for me today. Guys, go out, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. And remember, also, this week is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, guys. 15th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith as well, but 40th of Empire Strikes Back. If you did not watch Empire Strikes Back on May 4th to celebrate, do it this week. I might just watch it again just for the hell of it because I love that movie so much. So that's it. Have a good one, guys. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.